Welcome inside the UNI Wrestling room. The NCAA's this weekend, coming off a great performance at the Big 12s. Coach Schwab, you've had some time to reflect. Happy with a lot of things from the Big 12s. What's your overall reaction?
Well, we got 10 guys to the national tournament. We scored more points than we ever scored before. Every single guy placed in the top 8. We had 3 champs. We scored. There's a lot of things that that we hadn't done as a team that we set in to do. And they guys, man, we had a rough kind of quarterfinal round. I think we went 4-5, and then the next round we come back and we go 10-0. Just seeing the response that they had, even when things got tough. And I think that's, if we talk about we're going to be gritty and we're going to be those things, and they're not going to be words on the wall. They're actually going to embody them. Those guys embodied everything that we talk about being, pointing the finger at ourselves and being coachable and gritty and selfless. And when you see the teammates and how they reacted for one another and the energy that they brought, I think that, to me, that set us apart from every other team that was there. Certainly being in a team race is a whole lot of fun. You come down to heavyweight and. At one point we're 30 plus points behind, so to make up that kind of ground, you can't be anything but proud. It also it creates so much momentum for us moving forward. We had 8 guys win their last match, finish with odd numbers, which those are the things that we talk about doing. We said 28.5 bonus points, things that we talked about doing, they went out and did. So now, you got to go do them in Philadelphia.
Culture is built. You could feel them feeding off each other and really wrestling their best at this time of year, and that's what you're building toward, right? Yeah,
for sure, the best versions of themselves, right? And then there's inspired effort, and really talked to the team about. I think inspired effort encompasses more than your head, heart, and it's connecting all that together, and then there's something beyond you that gets a little bit more out of you. The guys that aren't wrestling, that are around, that are the support, I was like, we can't hang our heads. We don't have any time for that. And if we do, then we're not who we say we are, right? So, like I said, I couldn't be prouder in that respect and aspect of how we responded and how we conduct ourselves. And like I said, it came down to the last day of match, and I think on paper, no one gave us a chance, but that's the great thing with sports, is that we have our say.
Love that about sports. We're going to introduce you to all 10 of the qualifiers. We'll start with 125 pounds, and Trever Anderson, 17-11. He's one of the few guys that is making his NCAA debut. And why are you excited for him to step out there on the mat for the first time at the championships?
He's lost to a lot of really high ranked guys, but he's in the match. He's rolling the dog out of him, and there's not gonna be a guy that's like, man, I hope that's my matchup. I hope Trever Anderson, but to seal his spot to place, he beat a defending All-American. Tanner Jordan was All-American last year, and not only did he win, he got a pin.
Yeah.
And bonus points for the team, but also just like you sealed your spot, because you got that. He was in that large last year, and it's like you just don't want to put yourself in those positions, and keeping it in your hands is always the best thing. But I think he's got a lot of momentum, and he's had to manage and deal being dinged up and part of it, but he never says a word. He just keeps coming to work, and obviously excited for him leading us off, because he leads us off really well.
One more wrestler before we go to break, and that's Julian Farber, second NCAA qualifying. Last year didn't go as he wanted, and you can tell he's eager to get back there.
Yeah, in his tournament didn't go as planned. He lost his first round match, and then he reeled off 5 wins in a row and got third. And talk about response. That's you couldn't have done it any better, and on that backside, Whitcraft is a really good wrestler at Oklahoma State, and then he knocked him out of the tournament. That guy can't score any more points for Oklahoma State. He wrestles a defending All-American, and in Frost, who's beat him the last few times and beat him pretty good, and you turn around a match like that, and then that seals your spot to go to the national tournament. And you kind of looked how things shaked out. If he loses that match, man, he's kind of in. That's why you always want to keep it in your own hands.
Yeah.
But man, the resiliency that we have as a group, and man, he showed the trust that he has in himself, and that he's able to kind of readjust and like, okay, here's my new goal, right? I didn't get first, but I'm coming back to get third, and he did.
All right, we'll talk about 8 more wrestlers that we need to cover here for the NCAA Championships, and back with that right after this.